Welcome to Business Infrastructure, the podcast about curing back office blues of fast-growing businesses. If you're a business owner or operator looking for practical tips and solutions to scaling your business in a sustainable manner, you're in the right place. Now here's your hostess, 𝗟𝗟 𝗂𝗏𝗄𝗏.
Having a tough time trying to explain ideas over a video conference? Try the ThinkSmart Whiteboard. It's the fastest whiteboard software in the world and allows you to upload flowcharts and write on them while your colleagues are watching remotely. Call us today for a free demo. The number is 1-866-584-6804 or visit us online at getmytablet.com. Now that's smart. Think smart. Hi there, it's me, 𝗟𝗟, and this is the final episode of Season 13. If you're a fan of the show, then you know I close out each season with a monologue. If this is your first time listening, welcome. This episode is actually going to be part monologue and part interview. And the reason is because I recently had the opportunity to attend the 2021 Podcast Movement Conference in Nashville, Tennessee, here in the U.S. And while I was there, I had the opportunity to meet and interview Kate Erickson. And you'll learn all about Kate in just a few minutes. She and I had a chance to take a deep dive into the business infrastructure that powers EOFire and how their commitment to operational excellence ensures high quality and a relentless focus on their audience's satisfaction. Now, if you aren't familiar with what business infrastructure is, let me first take a moment to define it. Business infrastructure is a system for linking the people, processes, and tools and technologies that allow you to scale sustainably and profitably. Now, as for a definition of operational excellence, well, you'll have to go back and listen to each guest's unique perspective for that. It is worth pointing out, though, that each of the 12 guests this season all stress the importance of having the right mindset. They also talked about the importance of demonstrating appreciation for the people that work for you, as well as your customers. Heck, everybody that makes up your ecosystem. Those are the ingredients necessary for operational excellence to not just be a thing to strive for, but something that's actually imbued in everything you and your company does. We even have 2 masterclasses on operational excellence from Dr. Jeffrey 𝗟𝗟, author of The Toyota Way, and Dr. Frank 𝗟𝗏𝗁. I encourage you to listen to all of the episodes from this season. I mean, there's so much great information. Now, back to Kate Erickson. Hello, everyone. We are here live at Podcast Movement Conference 2021 in Nashville, Tennessee, and I am joined by a very, very special VIP guest, Kate Erickson. She is the heartbeat at EOFire. You know, I've learned from a previous guest this season, Kate, to not refer to people like us as engines.
Really?
Because it likens us to machinery and we're human. It removes the human element. So I was like, you know what? Kate is the heartbeat.
I like this.
Yes.
Can I use that now?
Of course.
Because I literally do refer to myself as the engine.
I know. That's why. I saw that on your bio on LinkedIn.
Yes. Okay.
So you are the heartbeat, my friend.
I like that.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's true. It's so fitting. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with Kate and EOFire, it actually stands for Entrepreneurs on Fire. And specifically, Kate runs the back end of the business of the Entrepreneurs on Fire podcast. And just to give you some quick stats here, the EOFire podcast, to date, they're coming up on their 10th year in operation. Talk about an OG in the podcasting game. Some people didn't realize podcasts have even been around that long, Kate.
So many people.
That is amazing. Over 100 million downloads. Can you imagine? 3,240 episodes. That's a lot of talking.
A lot. and it's John.
But I know you have your own podcast as well.
I do.
And I do want you to talk about that too, if you don't mind, toward
Absolutely.
The end. So here's the thing. When you hear numbers like this, it might seem completely unachievable, right? Especially if you are looking into podcasting or any business venture, if you want to start your business. But that's exactly what Kate and John, the actual host and founder of EOFire, this is what they're all about, inspiring millions. So we're hoping over the next few minutes, because I know we can't do a full-on podcast interview, but we're hoping that you will walk away after listening to this episode inspired to start that podcast, start that new business, leave that 9-to-5 corporate job. Behind every great business is a great process. And so Kate's going to give us a sneak peek behind the curtain of EOFire. So let's get started, Kate. I noticed you have an advanced degree in English literature.
I do.
I was like, how did she go from an advanced degree in English literature to, I noticed some of your first jobs were in marketing, and then you were in the banking space. Can you tell us a little bit about that, how you made that transition, and then ultimately how you became the chief implementer at EOFire?
Yes. Yeah. So my love has always been English. Well, actually, sorry, not always. I was a sophomore in college and my counselor said, you need to choose a major or else you're not going to graduate in 4 years. So I just thought of who my favorite teacher was, and he happened to be my English professor. And so I was like, I will become an English degree major. And then I graduated with that, and I fell in love with the passion and the love that my English professors had for the subject. And I love to read, and I love to write, and I love to dissect stuff. And so I thought, I want to do that. I want to feel the way that they feel about what they do. And so my dream became to be an English professor. And so that's why I continued on to get my graduate degree so that I could be a professor out of college. And that happened at not an ideal time for the education system and the economy as a whole. It was 2008 when I graduated with my master's. And so a lot of teachers were being pink slipped, and there was not a lot of money in the education system at that time because of budget cuts and everything. And so I got into marketing and advertising, and I loved it. I loved the excitement of it. I loved the creativity of it. And I started pulling all of my obsessions with organization, and I was an account executive. So I was basically the person in between the client and the agency's creative team. So I became like a master project manager, essentially, of trying to hit deadlines, keep everybody on the same page, try and best communicate to the creative department what the client wanted and vice versa. And I just fell in love with systems and processes and how to work efficiently, because so many things in marketing and advertising, people want to be creative and they don't want to be on schedules, and it doesn't work that way. And I'm like, but no, it has to because the magazine needs it now. Right. And so I just kind of fell in love with, I became obsessed with being better at being that mediator. And when John started Entrepreneurs on Fire, he is excellent at systems and processes as well, but it wasn't allowing him to exercise his vision and ideas and creativity in the way that he knew he could. So he asked if I wanted to join the team and kind of be that for the company so that we could actually start to launch products and services and serve our community at a whole new level, not just with the podcast, but with masterminds, with online courses and all of that. So that is a shortened version of how it came along.
That is amazing. And so for those who are listening right now, Kate, who may not be familiar with the Entrepreneurs on Fire podcast, can you tell us a little bit more about the podcast as well as the business itself?
Mm-hmm. So in 2012, John had an idea to create a podcast that would inspire listeners to believe that they could create a business, and from that business, create lifestyle and financial freedom. He was inspired in that way by podcasts that were interviewing entrepreneurs. And it was really what got him to the spot of, hey, wait a second, I have this idea. I want to do this. his differentiator at the time was that he was listening to these podcasts when he was working in commercial real estate, and he was being inspired by these stories of people who were, forging their own path and leading the life that they wanted to lead, making their own choices, not choices based on what their manager wanted them to do or expected of them. But those podcasts were only coming out like once every other week. And so he was just like hungry for this content. So he decided to launch the podcast that was doing it daily. So he started interviewing entrepreneurs daily, releasing an interview daily. He wasn't actually interviewing people every single day. He would batch and he has all these great systems, which I'm sure we'll get into. But his idea was to be that inspiration for others because that's what helped him. So he launched the podcast in 2012, September. And by April 2013, I had joined the team. And in 2013, we launched our first mastermind, our first online course, and we started building a team. And the business just kind of started, it snowballed from there. It really became this thing that was led by our audience, really. We were just listening to what our audience's pain points and questions were. And luckily, we were in a position to be able to create the things that could help them in those areas.
That's amazing. And it just shows the power of podcasting, right? It all started with that idea. He went out on a limb, started this podcast, and then brought you onto the team to run all of the back office operations. And it's great because I know we had a season previously just on COOs, the number 2, right? So I love the fact that you mentioned CEOs. We are the visionaries, the big picture thinkers. It's the COOs who are making sure that vision is actually executed. I know. It was just starting to get good, right? Well, there's more where that came from. To listen to the full interview, be sure to click the link in the description box below. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click that notification bell so that you'll know when our next episode drops. Until then, keep operating smoothly.
Join us next week for another episode of Business Infrastructure with 𝗟𝗟𝘁𝘀𝗶𝗹𝗶𝗶𝗶𝗶.